If you've ever cared for an older relative, maybe a parent, you probably know that feeling. That loop of worry.
Oh, yeah.
It's that question again and again. Relentless. When is my daughter coming? You answer your patient. She'll be here at 1:00 p.m.
Yeah.
Mom, right after the news.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe 5 minutes later, it's back.
Yeah.
But when is she coming? Sometimes even more anxious. It's exhausting.
It really is. It drains you. And I think that our first instinct, as caregivers is to think, okay, this is memory loss. Or worse, maybe they're just not listening.
Right. Like they're doing it on purpose sometimes.
Exactly. But the material we looked at, digging into behavioral gerontology, it really pushes us to see it differently. It's a really important shift in perspective.
How so?
Well, it frames this behavior not as defiance, not really as just forgetting, but more like a desperate search. They're looking for a feeling of certainty.
Certainty.
Yeah, a feeling that their own mind, their cognitive abilities just can't provide anymore. It's driven by anxiety.
Okay, that's interesting. We need to unpack that because shifting from seeing it as just memory to seeing it as behavior, well, that changes how you'd approach it, right?
Completely.
So that's our mission for this deep dive then, to pull out these maybe counterintuitive behavioral tricks based on ABA, applied behavior analysis,
That's the goal.
to get caregivers and their loved ones, frankly, out of that chaos and hopefully into some calm.
Precisely. We want to move away from giving endless verbal reassurance, talking and explaining over and over.
Which, like we said, often doesn't even work. It can backfire.
It often does. Instead, we want to establish clear, consistent visual certainty. Basically, teaching the brain a different way to find reassurance, a way that doesn't rely on asking someone again and again.
Okay, so let's start right there. Why do our answers fail? I mean, if you're patient, you explain it clearly.
Yeah.
Why doesn't it stick?
Well, the sources bring in the ABC framework here. It's fundamental in behavior analysis. A is antecedent, B is behavior, C is consequence. So the repetitive question, that's the behavior, B. Our response, the detailed answer, that's the consequence, C.
Okay.
And if that consequence makes the behavior happen more often, well, it means we're accidentally reinforcing the loop.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying by being patient, by explaining,
Yeah.
we're actually training them to ask again. That feels wrong.
It feels wrong, but it's not about blame. It's about understanding the function of the behavior. Why are they asking?
Okay.
Usually it serves one of two functions. One is obvious. They need information. What time is my appointment? Simple access to info.
Makes sense.
But the second function is often way more powerful, especially in this context. It's access to attention or connection. Are you still nearby? Do you care?
Okay. I think I'm starting to see it.
Yeah.
And this is the key bit, I bet. When we give that long answer,
Mm-hmm.
the actual information, the fact of when the daughter is coming, that fades almost instantly because of the memory issue, the cognitive decline.
Exactly. Poof.
Gone. But the attention we just gave them, stopping what we were doing, looking at them, talking kindly, that feeling sticks around longer.
That's it precisely. That attention becomes this unintended, really high-value reward. It reinforces the asking.
Mm.
It teaches the brain subconsciously, hey, asking this question gets mom or dad's full focus right now.
Wow. Okay.
So the solution feels backwards, but it's not about explaining more. It's about changing that reward structure.
Right.
We need to move the answer out of their head, out of that fragile short-term memory,
And put it where?
into the environment. Make it external, stable, visible.
Okay, so how do we actually start doing that? It sounds like step one is dealing with the trigger, right? That uncertainty, that anxiety that makes them ask in the first place.
That's exactly the first step. We call it antecedent manipulation. The antecedent A is that trigger the feeling inside them, maybe boredom, maybe anxiety about being alone, maybe just uncertainty.
Right.
So the goal is to change the environment before that feeling even hits. We put the answer out there visually before the anxiety gets a chance to prompt the question.
Okay, theory makes sense. But give us that example from the sources. How did it work for, was it Mr. L?
Yes, Mr. L. He was constantly asking about his daughter's visit. His son tried something different. He stopped the verbal back and forth.
Just stopped answering?
Well, he stopped giving the long verbal answers. Instead, he created a simple visual cue, just a small card, maybe laminated it, made it bright, and it just said, "Daughter coming after the 12:30 news."
That's it. Just a little card, like an index card. Seems too simple. Why not like a big whiteboard schedule or something on the fridge?
Good question. Because the card is highly specific to that repetitive question. A big calendar has lots of information. It requires processing. The card is simple, constant, and directly answers the question, causing the anxiety loop.
Ah, okay. Less mental work involved.
Much less. It removes the need for them to actively search their memory, which is stressful. It externalizes the certainty. The answer isn't a fleeting conversation anymore. It's a solid object they can see. Right there.
Okay, so the visual cue, the card, is in place. Now comes the tricky part, right? Phase 2. Changing our reaction, the consequence.
Yes. And this is where it gets tough for caregivers. Because our instinct is to explain, to soothe verbally. Just pointing feels.
Less caring. Maybe even a bit cold.
It can feel that way initially, absolutely. The problematic consequence, the one we naturally do, is repeating the answer, maybe with a bit of frustration. She's coming at 1.0. We just talked about this.
Yeah, I've been there.
And that reaction, even if frustrated, gives a lot of attention. High-value reward. Reinforces the asking.
But if I just point to the card, aren't they going to feel brushed off? Especially if they're genuinely anxious. That's the bit that feels cruel.
That's the #1 fear caregivers express. It speaks to how much emotional work goes into caregiving. But we have to reframe it. Think of it this way. You're not ignoring their need for reassurance.
Okay.
You're teaching their brain a new, reliable way to get that reassurance. The anxiety often comes from the uncertainty itself. The verbal loop keeps them stuck in that uncertainty and anxiety.
So breaking the loop is actually the kinder thing to do in the long run.
That's the argument. That's the behavioral approach. So when the question comes, the caregiver uses a minimal verbal response and redirects all the attention to the visual cue.
So what does that look like? Mr. L's son, what did he do?
He'd pause whatever he was doing, make eye contact briefly, point to the card, maybe tap it gently and say something really minimal, like, let's check the card, Dad. That's it.
No explanation, no discussion about the time again.
None, because the goal is to reinforce the act of looking at the card, not the act of asking you.
You're basically starving the question of its reward, the big attention dose, and rewarding the new behavior, looking at the card.
Exactly. You're validating that action instead. And to make this easy and consistent for the caregiver, because consistency is crucial,
Right.
we teach this little rhythm, the 3 Ps. It's like a mini playbook.
Okay, the 3 Ps. What are they?
They need to happen pretty much immediately when the question is asked. First, point. Physically point to the visual cue, the card.
Got it. Point.
Second, pause. Just for a few seconds. Let them look. Let the visual information sink in. Don't demand they read it aloud or confirm they understand. Just a quiet pause.
Okay, point, pause.
And third, proceed. Immediately shift gears. Start a new unrelated topic or activity. Okay, let's check the card. Pause. Hey, did you see the birds at the feeder this morning?
Ah, so you redirect their attention away from the loop entirely after pointing.
Yes. That consistent rhythm point, pause, proceed. That's what helps rewire the brain's expectation about how to get reassurance.
This flows right into phase 3 then, which sounds really important for making this stick, reinforcing calm and certainty.
Absolutely.
It's not just about stopping the repetitive question.
No, the ultimate goal is calm. It's about rewarding any behavior that's incompatible with that anxious questioning loop.
And this is called differential reinforcement.
That's the term, yes. You're reinforcing the good stuff, teaching the brain, hey, there are better, less anxious ways to feel secure. The key is catching them doing something right, even something small.
The sources mention 2 main ways to do this positive reinforcement. First one, reinforcing independent use.
Yes, this is huge.
So if you happen to see your loved one, just glance over at the card without asking you first.
That's a major win. That deserves immediate specific praise, not over the top, but genuine. Something like, Dad, I noticed you just checked the schedule yourself. That's really smart thinking. Good to know when she's coming, right?
So you're validating that specific action of checking the cue independently.
You got it. Locking in that new habit, trust the card.
And the second type of reinforcement deals with those questions that might be more about attention than information.
Exactly. If you suspect the when is she coming is really more like, are you still here? Talk to me. Then you address both needs, but separately. Use the card for the information part, quickly, point. The card says 1.0, minimal. Then immediately pivot to engagement. Satisfy that need for connection. Now, tell me about that funny thing you saw on TV, or want to help me sort these socks?
So info need met visually, connection need met with a new interaction.
Perfect. But you never reward the repetitive question itself with that long, attention-heavy explanation.
This whole thing, though, it requires the caregiver to be a bit of a detective first, doesn't it? You mentioned the ABCs earlier. Before you even make the card, you need to track things.
Yes, absolutely essential. Spend a few days just observing. Track the A, the antecedent. What seems to trigger the question? Is it when you leave the room? Is it during transitions? Is it just boredom? When does it happen most?
Okay, track the trigger.
Then track the B, the behavior. What's the exact question? How often? What's their tone like? Anxious? Casual?
Right.
And critically, track the C, the consequence. What are you doing right now when they ask? Are you explaining, getting frustrated, redirecting sometimes? Be honest.
Because knowing your specific pattern, the A, B, and C for your loved one, tells you where to intervene. Mr. L's triggers might be different from someone else's.
Totally different. Once you see your pattern, then you create the right visual cue, put it in the right place, and commit to that consistent response. Those 3 Ps.
Point, pause, proceed.
And then you should start to see the questioning decrease. But let's quickly hit those couple of worries families always bring up.
Yeah, let's do that. Back to the cognitive versus behavioral thing. People think, it's memory loss, it's cognitive. Why would a behavioral trick work?
It's a fair question. The underlying memory impairment is cognitive, no doubt. But the repetitive looping behavior, that pattern of asking again and again, that's often maintained by environmental factors.
Like our responses, the attention.
Exactly. And since these visual cues and redirection strategies don't require the person to remember the answer from moment to moment.
They bypass the memory problem.
Right. You're not asking them to remember anything verbally. You're just providing the answer constantly, visually, right there in their environment. It takes the load off their damaged memory system.
Okay, that makes total sense when you put it like that.
Yeah.
What about the timeline? How long does this usually take? Are we talking days, weeks, months?
The sources generally suggest, and this depends on consistency. Consistency is everything.
Got it.
But you can often expect to see a noticeable decrease in the repetitive questioning within about 1 to 3 weeks.
1 to 3 weeks. That's actually pretty fast.
It can be if the approach is applied consistently. The brain needs that consistent experience to learn. The card. That's where the certainty is, not in asking mom again.
This whole conversation has really reframed things for me. That idea that the repetition isn't just noise, it's communication. Flawed communication maybe, but communication.
It really is. That anxiety, that loop of worry, it happens when the environment isn't giving them that feeling of reassurance quickly or reliably enough.
So by using these simple visual cues and that consistent low-key response, point, pause, proceed.
Caregivers are doing 2 massive things. They're lowering their loved one's anxiety, and let's be honest, they're restoring a huge amount of their own peace of mind.
Yeah, reducing their own stress.
It's a really practical, powerful use of behavioral science for a very human problem.
Okay, let's leave our listeners with one final thought. Let's talk maintenance. Say a caregiver uses this, it works brilliantly, things are calm for months.
Great scenario.
But then, suddenly, the repetitive questions start creeping back in. What's the first move?
That's a fantastic point to end on. The key takeaway here is, if the loop returns after a period of success, your first reaction shouldn't be, oh no, it stopped working, or frustration.
Okay.
Your first action should be to review the environment and your consistency. Ask yourself, did something change? Did the routine shift? Did we move furniture? Or did the lighting change, making the card harder to see or less noticeable?
Or did we slip back into old habits? Did we start giving those long verbal answers again sometime?
Exactly. Check the system first. The commitment isn't just to set it up once, but to gently maintain it. Refresh the cue if needed, maybe make it brighter, move it slightly, and double-check your own responses. Are you sticking to the point? Pause. Proceed.
So don't blame the person, check the system. It's about ensuring that visual cue remains the easiest, most reliable path to reassurance.
That's the sustainable path to calm.
What a great deep dive into finding certainty and the power of redirecting behavior. A solid reminder that sometimes the solution isn't in trying harder, but in changing the environment.